Yes, in the back.
It's not turned on.
You got about 5 seconds when somebody hits a website to keep them or lose them. So tonight for the college kids, I'm going to slip in dating tips. You know, alert. This is what we always notice with our players. Guys that wear their hats like this means don't look at me. And we had a lot of players that fitted in that category. Those two being two of them. They were ugly. But they, you know, in South Dakota it's so windy and you gotta yank your hat down tight like that. Don't look at me. And if they wore their hat like this, that was more like a coach. That was, don't talk to me. Just don't talk to me. I'm a coach. And then I would suggest girls, you stay away from guys. Because this means beat me and take my lunch money. Hopefully they'll get better as we go. These tips. Now, I knew it was time to get out of coaching and I couldn't go much more physically, emotionally. You know, just trying to fight cancer and some other stuff. But it really got bad one night. We're playing a home game and it's one of the last ones I'm going to coach. And this referee is a homer, but he homers up at home. So I, you know, trying to shake it off. I clean up, make sure the guys cleaned our locker room, check the visitors' locker room, go to the officials' locker room, and somebody left a cell phone. So I pick it up and look at it. Right away I know whose it is, so I grab my walker and cell phone. I don't even put on my coat. I just go out in that snow because I want to catch those guys before they take off. And it's icy in our parking lot all winter long. I'm sliding along on this walker, you know, and they speed up when they see me coming. So finally they had to stop at a stop sign to get out on Main Street, and I got up with them and knocked on the window, and the guy rolls the window down. And, you know, it's hard to stop those walkers on ice, especially when you got tennis balls on that back part and dogs chasing the tennis ball. So I said to the ref, I said, Pat, Fox, this is your phone, right? He grabs it, opens up, looks inside, says, yeah, it is. How'd you know it was mine? I said, well, when I looked inside and saw 23 missed calls, I knew it had to be yours. So I got out of coaching, and right away, you know, my wife has a metal detector that at the door of our house that she can detect any coins I have, or even paper money I'm trying to sneak in the house. It's unbelievable. So, you know, I know I'm going to have to keep working, so I go through the one ad. I see an advertisement for a small church in the country needs a preacher. So I drive out and interview, and they say, well, they only got one requirement. Don't ever preach longer than an hour. That's why we got rid of the other guy. So the first Sunday, on Saturday, gotten some new dentures, and I went to preach, and I went 8 minutes, and I got a standing ovation. People were so grateful, thankful. And they right away started texting and phoning and emailing people about it. And the next Sunday, they were all over the place. I went 10 minutes. And they picked me up and gave me a ride like I'd won the Super Bowl. I mean, they were excited for those short sermons. Well, the third Sunday, I went 2 hours and 15 minutes. And the elders had got me back in a corner. I'm thinking, they're not protecting me, they're deciding which one of them's going to kill me. What's your problem, buddy? 8, 10, 2 hours and 15 minutes. I can explain it all. That first Sunday, the dentures hurt so bad I couldn't go more than 8 minutes. Second Sunday, they still hurt. There was a little better. I went 10. But this Sunday, I made a terrible mistake. I was late and in a hurry, ran in the bathroom, got my wife's dentures, and I just couldn't shut up. So they say, well, look, we're going to decide your fate. Go say goodbye to some of the parishioners as they leave. Well, two little old ladies in the front row, one of them had slept through the whole sermon. I saw all 2 hours and 15 minutes. So they come walk out, nice job, preacher, that's a great lesson. And they never know what the lesson was. Nice lesson, what they talked about. Oh, it was good. It was good. You were led by the Spirit. So they get about 15 yards away from me, they put on their hearing aids and they start talking to each other. And the lady that was awake said, man, that's the worst stinking sermon I ever heard. The other lady said, I didn't hear a minute of it. It was so boring. And he was so boring, I fell asleep. I slept through the whole thing. The first lady says, yeah, I know. I said, what do you mean? Well, I slept through the thing and my butt fell asleep. He says, yeah, I know. I heard it snore several times during the lesson. Okay, I'll cross that one off. Now, on these cards, salesmanship cards really good. We got a few of those over there. Second 10 Commandments, really good. Stop and think. We had our players put this in front of their driver's license. So when they're asked for proof of age, they can read this. Stop and think, is this a risk I can afford to take? How will this affect my future? How will this affect my family? How will this affect my teammates and coaches? That's a mouthful. On the back side, coaches and players with great team attitude. Now that's not just kids that have this problem. What did we do at Subway? I got that phone call about a person who got a DUI, hit and run, under the influence. And they're making good money, but they're probably not going to be making good money next week. On This Day is very good. And then there's one called, it says Wolves Basketball, but it's by William Safire. He died about a year ago. It's about teaching. So anybody that teaches, grab some of those. I think we pulled some of the ones we don't have quite as many, but there's tons of these for students, and we want you to use them as much as you can. Take as much as you can. Now I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to give you some really good ideas for servant leadership, but I think that's the only really real kind of leadership. And then I'm going to give you the 5 keys for a great day, a great week, a great month, a great year. Just 5 C's. Now, I've got a good punchline on a joke here, but I can't remember the story. Why did the horse go behind the tree?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either, sir, so help me out. Why would the horse go behind the tree? It really hurts me bad. That really hurts. Well, here's the thing for you guys to raise your grade points, half a point. Take a regular sheet of paper, you take your class notes in, draw a line a third of the way in or a third of the way in from the outside. Take all your notes into 2/3 and the stuff that's repeated, the professor goes crazy talking about it, you move that to the 1/3 because that's going to be on the test. And when you get out in the so-called real world, you use the same technique to get business ideas. Sam Walton, nowhere without a yellow pad. Remember Sam Walton? They got the TV show about the Walton. They also ran a tiny little store in about, a million towns. But Sam Walton, he got with it. He took notes. and taken Cornell notes. You can Google it, Cornell, and you'll learn about Cornell notes. And it's so simple, but it's so great for helping your grade. But for business people, it's even better. Now, there's a great thing in the military. An army of lions led by an ass will be defeated by an army of asses led by a lion. In other words, leadership counts. You can have the best players. If you got poor leadership, you got nothing. You got great leadership and average players, you're going to do a great job. That's just the way you're always going to be good. You may not be great. You can't have all great players in one team. That'd be really hard to coach. Hard to coach all great players. But it's really important to understand how leadership's a big deal. But the key component to leadership is this. Your example is not the main thing in influencing others. It's the only thing. If students don't give a flip what you say, they want to see what you do. Are you the class earlier? Are you always prepared? Are you always prepared? Now, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. The last debate, we had one guy that was prepared and one guy that wasn't. You can't have a 5-to-1 ratio or a 4-to-1 ratio unless it's pretty blatantly obvious that you got to do your homework. You got to be prepared. This is the easiest thing in the world for me to do this. It's all the work they did setting up and preparing that's important. Doing the talk's easy. It's the preparation. It's the planning. That's what makes you can't fake the harvest. You don't do a good job preparing the field, putting the seed in, cultivating it, watering it, fertilizing it. You're not going to have a good crop. You can't fake the harvest. You got to do all the other things. The harvest might be the easiest thing. Might be, might not be. So that's a real key for you. I like this rule: fire yourself every year. A guy named Norm Stewart started Coaches Against Cancer. He would fire himself every year. Walk out of the office, say, "You're fired." And he'd turn around, walk in the office and say, "You've just been hired to replace that fool Stewart. What are you going to do to make this job better?" You got to do that. You think those guys in the NFL don't do that? You think that the New England Patriots aren't thinking right now, what do we got to do to make our team better? Because we're pretty bad. What do you think about the Dallas Cowboys? They could kill 22 seconds with the best of them. I mean, they got real problems. They need to be shooting some of those guys. Get the idea that they're serious. Or release them. Just put them on the street. Just put them on the street and let them know they're not going to put up with that kind of performance. They're paying these guys millions of dollars to walk back to the huddle when there's 22 seconds left, and they can sprint back, line up, spike it, run a play, call a timeout, kick a field goal. But they're walking back. One guy's arguing with the referee, and 2 wide receivers are walking back to them. I guess you don't always get what you pay for, I guess. You've got to know who you are and what your game is. That's what college is all about. Finding out who you really are. Not who your parents think you are. The most miserable kids I've ever worked with were kids that were taking a major because that's what their parents wanted to take. They wanted to farm, or they wanted to work in the oil field, or they wanted to be a counselor, but their parents wanted them to be brain surgeons. You got to do what you want to do. You got to be happy with what you're doing. Ecclesiastes 5:19 and 20. When God gives a person wealth and possession and enables them to enjoy them, that's a gift of God. To be happy in their lot and love their work, that's a gift of God. A lot of people drive to work on Monday morning and they hate going to work. If you're not one of those people, you're really fortunate. And it says in verse 20, this person seldom reflects on the days of their life. They don't reminisce because they're occupied with gladness of heart. They're ready to go on. They're you know, when do you get busy? When you retire. That's when you really get busy, when you retire. Because you got more time to help more people than you did before. Anybody here own a squirrel-proof bird feeder? Does it really? How do you do it? Stand there with a shotgun all night? I don't know, boy. I just don't believe that there is such a thing, but they say there is. But why is it so hard to find a squirrel-proof bird feeder? Because the squirrel knows that necessity is the mother of invention. And that squirrel is going to find a way one way or the other. Just like the great discoveries medically have come about because we had to find an answer. We had to find an answer. Kids are dying of polio. Had to find an answer. Necessity is the mother of invention. So, you want to get all the good ideas, but you're only going to use those ideas. You pull over to the third, your third. Because you want to get all the good ideas, but you can't use them all. But you can do in Sheridan, you can't do in New York City. But you can do in Miami, you might not be able to do in Sheridan. Different resources, different people, different situations. You're your own best expert, you're your own worst critic. Anything I say, that's just me talking. But you got to take it down so you can analyze it and say, that's baloney. That's pretty good. I might be able to make that better. You've got to get all the good ideas. But you can't use all the good ideas. You just can't. Lamar Hunt, 3 goals for your life. Because you always got to talk about goals and you're not a good speaker, you know. He was the guy who had a lot of silver until he owned the Kansas City Chiefs. First thing he said was, determine what you really want. Not what your parents want, or your grandparents want, or your girlfriend wants, or whatever wants. What do you really want? Really. Deep down. That you don't share with anybody else. Number 2, find out what it's going to cost to get what you really want. Because you got to pay a price to get what you really want. Then number 3, decide if you really want to pay the price to get what you really want. Why? It could be your health. It could be your marriage. It could be your family. It could be your sanity. There's a lot of things you could lose trying to get what you really want. The cost might be too high. Might just be too high. Now this guy named Warren Buffett, he wrote that song Margaritaville. Maybe it was his brother Jimmy that wrote that song. I'm not sure. But Warren dabbled in stock. I don't know if he was very successful or not, but I guess he's got $51 billion till he gave $40 billion of it to Bill Gates to give away to people. But you know, he can still live off of 5% of 11 billion quite comfortably. He said he looked for 3 things in hiring people. Number 1, work ethic. Number 2, intelligence. And number 3, character. And then he said, the first 2 without the last one will kill you. Character, character, character. You gotta have good people. Now the guy that won the Triple Crown this year in baseball, and we seem to have forgotten about it already. Nobody really cared what he was doing. Miguel Cabrera from the Tigers. 2 years ago, he was playing in a playoff game legally drunk. A one-game playoff game against the Twins. He was legally drunk. He'd been arrested for beating up his wife the night before. Now his life's changed a little bit. He's had to make some decisions. Character, character, character. When I think of Bruce Hoffman, I think of character. I think character. I think a guy I'd love to do anything with, and whatever he told me, I could trust it was the truth. He has character. Boy, it's a valuable thing. You don't want to lose your character. You don't want to lose it. Now, when you're hiring somebody, you can't ask any questions because of the federal government. Like that Pat that used to be on Saturday Night Live, you couldn't ask what it was, or it is. It's just an it. You can't ask, are you a girl or are you a guy, Pat? I want to know. So, Pat doesn't have to tell you. The federal government will get you. But if you could ask one question you want to ask, who are your three best friends? Because if they're hanging around lowlifes, they're not going to make it. When somebody screws up in the workplace, it's usually because of something they're doing on non-work time hours. If you hang around good people, they elevate you. You hang around bad people, they suck you down. You know, you're going through a jungle and the guy goes, hey, help me, I'm in quicksand. And you reach in to pull him out and he pulls you in. Wouldn't want to have him be my best friend. Who are their three best friends? And I'm going to tell you, coaches, if they're smart, they try to observe that. Who are they hanging with? I'll never forget the time a wide receiver for Tennessee football ripped one of the coaches. I was in an office with Pat Sumner, and she went berserk. Get her in my office. And they bring in the girls' basketball player that's dating this guy. He's a pro. And she said, if I ever hear you so much as say you agree with anything that idiot says, you're off our team. I can't tell you who to do, but I can tell you whether or not you're on our team. So you better keep your mouth shut. And then she brought in the rest of the team, told them if she ever read anything like that in the newspaper about any of the coaches or ripping the program, they're gone. Now she's going to find out. You know, because sometimes they stab you, I know, newspaper guys, but they won't for long because there are no newspapers anymore. No internet guys now stab you. But you got to be around the right people. That's so big. Three types of, this is called the Beswick scale. Talent, character, or mindset. A in character, or talent, A in character. Peyton Manning, Derek Jeter, best player, hardest worker. That's something. When Jeter came up, he got a terrible year his rookie year in the minors. Terrible. Then he came up a year or two later, and they wouldn't let him go up with the team to play a game when they had to work out with a veteran. They worked out for 4 hours, and they're walking back to the clubhouse. And the veteran says, Derek, we better jog it in. You never know who's watching. It was Don Mattingly. And why did they have Don Mattingly with Derek Jeter? Because they knew Derek Jeter was going to be the next Don Mattingly with the Yankees. He was going to be the leader. He was going to be the servant leader. I can remember, well, I'll give you one name. Total package guy. Peyton Manning's total package, everything. He's got it all. He's a good person. He's smart. He's tough. He's gutty. He's risking some things to play the game he loves. Now, A in talent, B in mindset. These are guys that poor ability to concentrate and pick things up, poor attention span. They'd rather do 50 things one time than one thing 50 times and get it done right. And they're coach killers. They're coach killers. They look great, but they just can't do it. Who was the number 2 pick in the draft to Peyton Manning?
Ryan Leaf.
Ryan Leaf. He has had trouble in high school, bar fights, college, pros. Got picked up this summer with, drugs in his brother's pickup truck, driving a truck, a grain truck, working for his brother now. I think he had about 4 years in the league. I don't even think he got to the 5-year pension. You know what I mean? I've got a tendonitis in this elbow, so I sort of look a little worse than I really am. No, I look pretty bad anyway. And then the last group are the ones that are B on talent, A on mindset. And they concentrate, they pick things up. They'll do one thing 150 times and be good at it. They're just unbelievable. Like the left fielder has been hurt for the Yankees, that Brett Gardner guy. Guys like that just, they get everything out of what they've got. Everything. Now there's a Jim, I went to a tryout camp with the Cardinals. A guy named Jim Fry there, he coached the '84 Cubs. He said, I was playing AAA and they sent down the scout to look at a pitcher that was throwing that night for us, see if they're going to bring him up to the Cardinals. I was terrible. I was having a terrible year. I thought I was going to get released or sent way down. That night they put me in the lineup and I said, I didn't want to be seen by this scout. I wanted to hang on. He said, what are you doing this? I said, oh, we want this guy to look at you. Manager probably just didn't like him, wanted him out of there. I said, I always had one thing I did. I tried to run as far as I could on a pop fly. Because all I could do was run. I wanted to show off my speed because that's all I had. So in that game, he hits a pop-up and they lose it in the lights and he gets to third base and scores the winning run. They win 1-0. So the scout comes in the locker room, goes over to the pitcher's locker, tells him to get his stuff. He's flying back to St. Louis. And he starts heading toward Fry's locker. And right away he's thinking he's going to give me my release. He's going to send me down. He says, where are you sending me, sir? I said, that's right. Pack up your stuff. You're going. Well, where are you sending me? As you're getting on the plane, you're going to St. Louis. You're going to the big club. He says, I'm having a terrible year. He says, yeah, you are. But anybody can get to third base on a pop-up can play in the major leagues as far as I'm concerned. That's the classic BA. Working so hard that you gotta have a chance because they're so valuable. Steve got a letter today from a kid that's at Wyoming. He got in the face of one of their senior players, blocked him out. The guy didn't like it. But you got to quit hustling so much, basically. The kid says, what? He says, yeah, you got to quit hustling. He says, hey, listen, buddy. If you're going to be telling me I should quit hustling, you're a senior. You should be hustling more than anybody is. Because this is your last year. A, B is going to get overtaken by that BA every time. Now, foxhole test. You draw a circle, At 12 o'clock, put your name. At 1 o'clock inside the clock, at 3 o'clock, put the number 1. At 6 o'clock, put the number 3. At 9 o'clock, put the number 2. Or in that foxhole, and we're not in a foxhole with a keg of beer shooting ducks that aren't armed. These are ducks that are armed and dangerous. I mean, it's warfare. You don't want your buddies in there. You want the toughest, most trustworthy people. Who do you want covering your back? Who do you want covering the crack of your butt? Cleve McClary, 19 surgeries, toes for fingers, a 3:30 marathon, an eye shot out, 19 surgeries. Spoken to every pro sports team and probably half the college teams in the country. And he wouldn't have had any surgeries if a black sergeant hadn't fallen on a hand grenade from the number 6 o'clock, number 3 spot. Who do you want number 2 where you're going to get blindsided? We all know now that left tackles get more money because that's the blind side of a right-handed quarterback. And we're trained to be right-eyed. But you still need protection on the right side because we tend to look and then look here and get focused and something sneaks up on us and gets us on the right side. Who are the 3 people you'd want in the foxhole? In your family, in your work, on your team, whatever. That's a big, big question. And you better have an answer for it. Now, I'm going to give you the 5 C's. I'm going to give them to you as a whole first. First one is concentration. Second one is courtesy. Third one is communication. Fourth one is competing. And the 5th one comes from the first 4, it's consistency. Okay. First one, concentration. It's making the main thing the main thing. Don't let things distract you. Like they put those horse blinders on so those horses don't see those $1,000 hats at the Kentucky Derby. They just see the finish line. $1,000 for a hat's a lot of money, girls. You can get one of those Elmer Fudd hats that buttons up for the long winter, that's okay, but not a Kentucky Derby hat. Don't do it. And then I think in concentration, it's a lot like that movie with a lot of the game where he said, clear the mechanism. All that noise in Yankee Stadium, and he just wants it to be him and the catcher. So he concentrates. And concentration is 90% of genius. 90% of genius. Got an 8-year-old or a 6-year-old grandson. He's our 8th one. He's got autism. He goes to a $34,000 a year school. But when you give him Legos, he can concentrate. When you have him do artwork, he can concentrate. Nobody can get in his zone. He's going to be brilliant. He learns by music. He listens to books on tape. He has a phenomenal vocabulary. Because he listens to all these books. It's amazing. He can concentrate. That's 90% of genius. That second one, courtesy. McDonald's serves Coca-Cola products because one Saturday morning at the only Coca-Cola store in the world in Des Plaines, Illinois, a guy wouldn't deliver on Saturday. So they signed a contract the next Monday, an exclusive McDonald's contract, although there was only one store. Now you got McDonald's here. We got 2 in Aberdeen. There's 1 in my hometown of Wayne. And there's that 1 in Des Plaines. Look how much McDonald's grown since then. And they say there are McDonald's in other places too. And when you land on the moon, they will have you asking, do you want to supersize it? McDonald's is everywhere. Pepsi also lost Disney World and Disneyland because they wouldn't deliver on Saturday. But they finally figured it out. They finally figured it out. So they're delivering on Saturday. Boy, Coca-Cola's doing pretty good. Having all those built in. Wow. A lot of McDonald's. Truett Cathy, ever heard of him? Ever heard of Chick-fil-A? Yeah, they have people protest them and they bring out food and beverage for them. For the protesters. That's turning the other cheek, I'd say, huh? I'd say that's something else. Their owner, Truett Cathy, about 90 now, was in a Ritz-Carlton and he said, thank you, and the guy behind the counter said, my pleasure. And it just ate him up. He kept thinking about it, and he had a meeting with all his people, and he said, we are now the my pleasure people. Dan comes to work from being in Georgia for a year. I said, you ever eat at Chick-fil-A, Dan? He said, my pleasure. They all say my pleasure, aren't they? If I get an email and the guy sends a thank you back after I've sent him a bunch of stuff, I'll type in all capital letters, my pleasure, and then delete it. But I want him to know it was my pleasure to send him stuff. Last night I couldn't sleep with this thing, so I got up and Coach Meyer had 5 or 6 letters from John Wooden. And it's all about the pleasure of helping other people. What a pleasure that is to be a person that helps other people. He was a my pleasure guy. He said in the letter, it's great to hear that something you did for someone was of great service to them, especially when you did it with no thought of getting anything in return. That's quite a statement right there. I'm going to tell you a story about a football coach. You ever heard of a guy named Bear Bryant? He used to coach at Alabama, had those hats and stuff. He was pretty good. He died 6 months after he retired, maybe 4 months, of cancer and alcoholism. As did Adolph Rupp, the all-time winningest coach for many, many years. Cancer and alcoholism. Bear was in first year at Alabama. He was in South Alabama. He missed on a kid. He wasn't happy. So he goes to this restaurant. It says restaurant. Doesn't look like much. Goes in, and every eye looks at him. Says he's the only white guy in an all-black restaurant. He walks up to the counter, and a big old guy comes up and says, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. He says, I want to eat. I'm hungry. He says, well, you ain't going to like what we got. We got black-eyed peas, chitlins, and collard greens. Bear says, look, I'm just a small-town boy from Arkansas, and I've eaten miles of these, so I'll have me a big plate, big plate. So he gets done eating, and he wants to pay the guy, and the guy says, nah, you don't have to pay me. He says, no, for a meal this fine, I should pay. And then Bear said, I tipped him, not too much to be fancy, and not too little to be cheap. And then as I walked out, he said, hey, you're the new coach at Alabama, ain't you? I said, yes, sir, my name's Paul Bryant. He said, could you do me a favor? Could you send me a picture, please? So the next day we took a snapshot and we mailed him the picture and some other stuff. Now it's 22 years later, and Bear's lost another kid in South Alabama. He's not happy. He's in his office and he's crying and moping. The kid went to Auburn. And Auburn's in the same league as Alabama. I think they're in the same state. And I know they poison each other's trees. So, He gets a phone call from the kid 3 days later. The kid says, Coach, if I said I wanted to come to Alabama, would you still take me? And Bear, being calm and cool, said, we sure would, son. He wants to drive down, he wants to fly. How he wants to get you? We'll get you up here right now. He said, no, Coach, calm down. I'll get there. Well, why'd you change your mind, son? Why? He said, my grandpa told me if I didn't play for you, I'd never learn as much about life and football as I should. And he said he'd never speak to me the rest of my life. Because you see, you ate my grandpa's restaurant 22 years ago, and you sent him a picture, and it's his pride and joy. And every customer that walks in, he says, hey, see that picture? The great Paul Bear Bryant. And I served him his first meal in the state of Alabama. And on the picture it says, thanks for the finest meal I ever ate. Paul Bear Bryant, University of Alabama. And then as they're walking out, the guy says one more time, hey, yeah, take a look. The greatest football coach of all time, Bear Bryant. And he's my friend. He's my friend. Now, I did a Chamber of Commerce thing in Huron, South Dakota. They gave the award to a family for the best business of the year. They ran the sale barn in town. The patriarch of the family, the oldest male, he couldn't talk because he could talk, but he was an auctioneer and he lost his voice in '76. So his son stood up and his son said, I just don't know how we won this award. I mean, I just don't know how because we don't have very many customers, but we sure have a lot of friends. This college, people need to feel like they're here with friends when they walk on this campus. They're not customers. They're friends. So all that's about courtesy, isn't it? Because everybody's fighting a tough battle. Everybody's got crap. Everybody's got baggage they're carrying. And they need, speak to the hurting and you never lack for an audience. Everybody's fighting a tough battle. But always remember this. People tend to go along with the people they get along with. So make sure everybody's your friend. Most of all, your enemy. What did the Godfather say? Stay close to your friends, but stay closer to your enemy. If you pray enough for an enemy, it's pretty hard for him not to become a friend. It's pretty hard. Then communication, there's verbal and nonverbal. About 6 years ago, I had 2 legs. I got in about 2:30 in the morning. We had a 5:30 practice. I thought I'm going to get some sleep. It was cold. I put on sweatpants and a shirt. And still freezing. So I started crawling closer and closer to my wife. Pretty soon I'm touching and feeling and touching. She's breathing deeper, faster, faster. Finally, just as I pull my hand back, she goes, Don, oh Don, why did you stop? I said, because I got the remote. Then I learned the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing what to say, and wisdom is knowing whether or not to say it. She said, how would you like not to see me around here for a few nights? I said, that would be great. Well, that was a Monday night. I didn't see her on Tuesday night, Wednesday night, but by Thursday night, the swelling had gone down. If you're working in a great workplace or if you're at a great school, you're with friends. And here's a great definition for a friend. Someone you don't have to measure your thoughts or weigh your words when you're with them. You can just say it. You don't have to measure your thoughts or weigh your words. You just say it. Some people you gotta massage them, you gotta do all that stuff. make them feel like they're so important. But a friend, you don't have to make a friend feel important. Because he feels important or she feels important just because they're your friend. That gives them their sense of importance. Now, sometimes when you work with people, you gotta give orders. Don't give orders that can be understood. Only give orders that can't be misunderstood. Now Dan, he's a little bit of a farmer. He worked for me. Well, I guess it wasn't Dan. It was Ralph. It was Ralph Turner. Ralph's sort of a part-time farmer. He's having trouble with his wife in the bedroom. And he went to his sex therapist and got his orders. So he comes home and goes out to the barn, and turns on all the lights, picks up a boom box, walks up to a giant John Deere tractor, puts the boom box down, turns it up louder even, and starts to dance and take his clothes off. Like he knocks off this overall strap, does a pirouette, lands in perfect balance, knocks off this one, jumps in the air, does a 360 and lands with a split, and the overalls cascade gently around his waist. Because I had just walked in then and filmed a while, and I saw the disgusting. I said, Ralph, this is disgusting. It's despicable. I want to throw up. I said, Coach, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to. I said, what do you mean doing it? I'm doing what my psychiatrist done told me to do. I said, well, what did he done told you to do? So we knew Betty Lou and I was having trouble in the bedroom department. So he told me to go home and do something sexy to attract her. No, if I'm going to work on this, you should work a little bit too. Do you have John Deere tractors out here? Okay. Then competing. Concentration, courtesy, communication, competing. People that don't compete complain. They complain. They're always going to whine, they're going to moan, they're going to make excuses. My wife is a great athlete and a competitor. Unbelievable. Club champion in golf, and just played it for maybe 7, 8 years. She's into it. She's so smart. When our son Jerry was 6, Jerry was a 2-time player of the year in the state of Tennessee, and he was a 2 or 3 year All-American in college. Holds the record for assists in college basketball career. And she had to know if he's going to be a player at age 6. So he takes him in for a complete psychological and physical profile. She's pacing the hallway. Doctor comes out. Doc, what do you got? What do you got? Well, ma'am, he's going to be a player. He's not going to run very fast. Oh, why did I marry Don? Such a klutz. And the kid's got great hand-eye coordination. He can see. And did you know your son's a genius? Of course I did. He's my son. What would you expect? But tell me, Doc, is there anything concerning you that bothers you? He says, yes, ma'am, one thing I'm sheepish about talking to you. Well, spit it out. Well, ma'am, your son has very, very underdeveloped private part. But right away, being a competitor, she said, what do we have to do to stall that? Well, this kid's got to eat toast and lots of it every day for the rest of his life. So next morning, Jerry comes down. Mom, 3 hours in the gym. I'm going to go an hour in the batting cage. I'll be back for lunch. He says, no, you won't. Sit down and eat your breakfast, Jerry. Sits down, there's a stack of toast. Says, Mom, what's with the toast? Jerry, you shut up. Eat your toast. Lots of it. Do it for the rest of your life. And don't ever think about calling me and asking me why. So being a good kid he is, he starts grabbing toast. She goes, hey, stop. Just 2 slices. The rest is for your father. doesn't, I don't really care. And all you guys that are laughing, I want to see how much toast you got on your plate tomorrow. But the big thing on your meeting is to work hard, work smart, work together, and have fun. Most coaches always say, play hard, play smart, play together. But Morgan Wooten added, have fun. You got a job, you can make $50,000 and have fun. That's better than making $500,000 and being miserable. Besides, you're not going to get to keep much of that $500,000 anyway with the new tax bill. Go ahead and make 50 and be happy. Find a lot of chickens you can steal and butcher, and you'll live a prosperous life. Now, consistency. I think the thing about consistency is meeting somebody to expect greatness from us. That makes us consistent. Because we better do what they were expecting, or they're coming after you. Now, how do you get that? Number one, you expect greatness. You never expect less than greatness. Number two, you inspect for greatness. You're there, you're supervising, you're on top of things. You can't be on a golf course all the time, expect to get it done, whether you're coaching or running a business or whatever. And then you got to accept only greatness. Accept only greatness. Now, John Wooden had a great quote. I never let our players get satisfied. I never let our coaches get satisfied. And I was never satisfied. We can always do it better. Now, that's a real leader right there. That's a servant leader. As opposed to this guy. Revolutionary War, these guys are fixing up a wall that's been bombed out. A horseman rides by and sees it, sees a guy giving orders, but he's not doing anything. Comes up to the guy and he says, what's up here? He says, we're fixing this wall. He says, well, why aren't you helping your guy? I'm a corporal. I don't have to do this stuff. So the guy that's on horseback gets off, starts helping the guy. They get done, and he walks up to the corporal and he says, Mr. Corporal, the next time you have a tough job like this, contact your commander-in-chief, and I'll be glad to come and help your men. It was George Washington. Mr. Corporal learned something about servant leadership. Everybody pitches in, everybody helps. That's just the way it's got to be. Because see, there's only two kinds of discipline. Pain of discipline and the pain of regret. And when you don't suffer the pain of discipline, you're going to suffer the pain of regret. For a basketball team, that's usually about March. Now, there are a lot of good teams that are very disciplined that don't win championships. You don't have to win a championship to be a champion. But nothing's more harmful to your team or your family or your marriage than the lack of discipline. For that discipline, more than talent or athleticism or ability, will determine who prevails in the end. Disciplined people are successful. Disciplined teams and businesses are successful. There is structure. There's a way they go about doing things. You know, these doctors and nurses, there's discipline and structure when they're working. And the last thing, Bruce, is from Jerry Krause, 20-year-old teammate. You're much better looking than Krause. So. Krause is a bench coach for Gonzaga. He's growing one of these things, and one of these. He's only 75 or 175. He takes naps during the game. But this is pretty good what he gave me. Find your unique talent or gift. What is it that you have that makes you special? Are you an encourager? Are you a motivator? Are you an organizer? What can you do? Where do you get a buzz out of doing? What's your gift? Number 2, develop that talent or gift to the fullest, because people aren't going to pay for average. I don't like average stuff. I don't need ostentatious, that means showy. The only big word I know. Or opulent. If I got a roof and a bathroom and a bed and a good television set, I'm pretty good shape. I don't need a $1 million room like on HGTV. I don't need a $3 million 1-week summer home in the Dominican because I'm 82 years old and my wife's 26 years old. I love those shows. I know it's going to be a nice home. See an old guy and his wife's rolling him around in a wheelchair. And he's looking for a summer 1-week home. Could be $5 million before he's done. And then you got to give your gift away every day. Well, Christmas is coming up. I love Christmas. I love Christmas now because we can have one. I'm not coaching. Never knew what it was. Thanksgiving, I didn't know what that was unless the players were eating with us. And they'd eat like hogs and go lay down on the floor. They were disgusting. That was the worst. The coach at the hotel, he was a slime ball. I love those holiday seasons. But Christmas is great because you buy gifts and give them away, But what if a guy bought gifts and just put them in the closet? How'd they like to get, I get a buzz out of putting them in the closet, buying gifts and putting them in the closet. Gee, Christmas. You gotta be nuts. And we've got 8 grandkids and I like 5.25 of them. We'll still buy gifts for the other 2.75. It was fun to watch them mess up the house. We don't have to clean it up with grandparents. And get their gifts and really enjoy them. Every day you got to give your gift away. Every day. Whatever your gift is, you give it away every day. You do that. And you'll be happy. You don't, you won't be happy. And in closing, James 3:13. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their life, by the deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. I've never met a happy person that was arrogant or selfish. And I've met a lot of happy people that were wise and humble. They don't go together. Arrogant and humility, they don't go together. The whole book of Proverbs is all about being humble, and then God will elevate us. He'll lift us up. He'll give us opportunity. And that's the way I feel. See, I had a surgery that my wife would never tell me until 2 or 3 years later how many times I flatlined in all my surgery. But they just kept, it's like they're putting in extra batteries or something. No, we need another valve. I need another valve. No, I just put another one in just for something to do. Tell you what, that's the deal where you get humbled fast. And you're weakened. And you're in pain. And nothing teaches you more about humility than pain. Nothing. But sometimes a little pain's a good thing to have. A whole lot of pain I wouldn't wish on anybody. Because unfortunately some people have to endure that sometimes. We went to see a guy on Saturday. He got cancer. We walked in the house and we couldn't believe how good he looked. We were so happy. But you never know what's going on inside, do you? You never know. So treat everybody as we, like a true servant leader. and give your gift away every day. And you're going to be a happy, wise person. And that, when your time is done here, you are in good preparation for what's going to come for you later, because of how you've helped the Lord down here. You guys have been great at taking notes. These guys have been tremendous on setting everything up. I mean, they work at it. You need to take pride in that. You need to take pride in your school. The junior college system in Wyoming is superior to probably 75% of the four-year system in other states in terms of facilities and what you have. And don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted. This isn't HGTV. This is the real world. You need to appreciate what you have here and make it work for you. Make it work for you. And the teachers that are here, they want to help you go to places where you can be successful. And you don't need a four-year degree, but a lot of people do. But not everybody needs a four-year degree. But everybody needs the help of the teachers here to guide them down the road. And what's going to make you make the big decision will probably be, you'll be in class one day, and you'll just say, man, I could come and listen to this teacher 5 times a day. This is what I want to do. I want to be as good as this teacher. I want to have the influence he or she has. That might be what guides you. There might be just some guy sitting around at some alumni gathering and said, yeah, I graduated when we played basketball right where you're sitting. I played the first game in this building, you know. Guy's probably pretty old. But somebody here wants to help you be successful, whatever you choose to do later. And never, ever be ashamed of being in junior college. That's the biggest crock there ever was. Not everybody can handle being in a four-year school. Too much crap, too much stuff, too many people. You need something smaller so you can digest it and get what you need. But make it work for you. You've got a wonderful place here with great people. We moved from the South. Those people are friendly, but they fake it a lot. People from South Dakota, Wyoming, North Dakota, Montana, they don't fake it. I mean, it's for real. And they know they better help you open the door because they're going to need your help when that wind's blowing. You open the door too. Thanks a lot. You guys have been great. A really good book I'd recommend is called The Practice of the Presence of God. I've given over 5,000 of these away. It's a great book. Practice of the Presence of God by Whitaker Press. Whitaker Press. You can Google it. Get the one with the little red trees on it. And it's a great book. This guy baked bread, did dishes in the 16th century. That's all he ever did. But he did it the way it should be done. Okay, thanks a lot.
If you need any more of these cards or anything, there's plenty left over, so feel free to grab them on the way out. Thanks for coming.